Most people spend their entire lives waiting to feel ready. The Stoics spent theirs acting anyway. And here's what that single different lives. One lived in preparation. One lived in motion. One full of potential. One full of results. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. The question is whether you'll keep letting your mind convince you that you don't. Let's be honest about something most people never say out loud. You already know what you need to do. You know the habit you keep breaking, the conversation you keep avoiding, the goal you keep pushing to next Monday. And it's not laziness. It's not lack of talent. It's something deeper and far more invisible. Here's what nobody tells you about self-doubt. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Protect you from discomfort, from failure, from judgment. Neuroscientists call it the threat response. When your mind senses uncertainty, the amygdala fires, cortisol rises, your body shifts into a state of self-protection. And suddenly, the voice in your head says, "Not yet, not you, not now, you're not ready." That voice feels like wisdom. It sounds like caution. But most of the time, it's just fear wearing a suit. And the tragedy isn't that the voice exists. The tragedy is that most people obey it for years, for decades, sometimes for life. They wait for the right moment that never arrives. They wait for the confidence that only comes after action. They wait and they wait. And somewhere along the way, waiting becomes the habit. Marcus Aurelius understood this completely. Emperor of Rome, commander of armies, one of the most powerful men in human history. And still, every single morning, he sat alone and wrote in his private journal. Not to record victories, not to plan conquests, but to train his own mind, to challenge his own excuses, to remind himself daily of who he chose to be. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't born with unshakable confidence. He built it deliberately, quietly, every day. And modern science now confirms exactly what he practiced. Psychologists call it cognitive reappraisal, the proven ability to consciously reinterpret how you experience a situation. Not to suppress what you feel, not to pretend the fear isn't there, but to change the meaning you assign to it. Research from Stanford University shows that people who regularly practice cognitive reappraisal don't just feel better emotionally, they perform better under pressure. They make sharper decisions. They recover faster from setbacks. And critically, they take more action even in the presence of fear. Because here's what the Stoics understood that modern culture has largely forgotten. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that something else matters more. The Stoics called the mind the inner citadel, a fortress that no external force could penetrate unless you open the gate yourself. Your circumstances can be difficult. People can disappoint you. Plans can collapse around you. But your response, that is always yours. Epictetus, a man who was born into slavery and rose to become one of history's greatest philosophers, put it plainly, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. A man who owned nothing, controlled nothing around him, yet mastered the one thing that mattered most, his own mind. And this is where modern neuroscience adds something powerful. Researchers studying self-determination theory found that people who operate from a sense of internal control, who believe their actions genuinely shape their outcomes, show measurably higher motivation, resilience, and long-term well-being than those who feel driven by external pressure or approval. In other words, The Stoics weren't just being philosophical. They were building the neurological foundation for a life that actually works. When you stop waiting for the world to give you permission, when you decide that your mind is the one driving, everything shifts. Not overnight, not dramatically, deliberately, one decision at a time. So, how do you actually build this? 3 practices. Start today. The next time self-doubt rises, and it will, don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Don't try to force it away. Just label it. Say to yourself, calmly, that's the threat response. That's the amygdala doing its job. This single act, what psychologists call affect labeling, immediately activates your prefrontal cortex, the rational, decision-making part of your brain. Studies show it reduces the emotional intensity of fear within seconds. You step out of the feeling and into the observer position. You are not the noise in your head. You are the one who hears it and chooses what to do next. 2. Act before you're ready. The Stoics practiced something they called amor fati, a love of what is. Not a passive acceptance, but an active embrace of reality exactly as it stands, including the discomfort, including the uncertainty. They didn't wait for ideal conditions. They worked with what existed right now in front of them. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think confidence is something you feel first, and then you act. The Stoics knew the truth. Confidence is something you build through action, and then you feel. So identify the one thing you've been postponing, not 5 things. 1. And take a single, deliberate step toward it today. Not tomorrow, today. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be real. Because every time you act in spite of the fear, you send a signal to your brain. I am someone who moves. I am someone who does not wait. And your brain, slowly but surely, begins to believe it. 3. Guard your inputs like a Stoic. Epictetus taught that the quality of your mind is a direct reflection of what you repeatedly give your attention to. Not just your habits, not just your actions. Your inputs, what you read, what you watch, what conversations you allow, what environments you place yourself in. The modern world is engineered to steal your attention and replace it with anxiety, comparison, and manufactured urgency. Behavioral scientists call it the attention economy, and your focus is the product being sold. The Stoic response is radical simplicity. Audit your inputs. Ask honestly, does this sharpen me or dull me? Does this move me toward the person I'm building or away from them? Cut what weakens you without hesitation. Protect what strengthens you without apology. Your attention is not unlimited. Spend it accordingly. Here's the truth the Stoics lived by, and that modern psychology now confirms. You will never feel fully ready. The fear will not disappear before you begin. The perfect moment will not arrive on its own. These are not obstacles between you and the life you want. They are the path itself. Every great Stoic, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, faced the same internal resistance you face today. The same doubt. The same temptation to wait, to hesitate, to hold back. The difference wasn't that they felt no fear. The difference was that they had trained their minds well enough to move anyway. And that training begins with a single, quiet decision. Not a dramatic gesture, not a perfect plan, just a decision made today, in this moment, that you are no longer willing to let fear write your story. Discipline is not punishment. It is the deepest form of self-respect. So save this. Come back to it on the days the voice gets loud. Share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. And the next time your mind says not yet, move anyway. Because the Stoics didn't wait to feel ready, and neither should you.